Hello everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about Arcane Showdown. It's just a new game that's come out and everybody's playing it, so I thought I might try a game and try a few games, and it's pretty decent. This is basically going to be a video about getting better at the game, what you want to do when you're a beginner. So I'll just get straight into it. So once you start the match, your enchant ability on the far left will be automatically equipped. So what you should do is go for expanding territories. Therefore you probably get like extra mana node and whatever kind of mana nodes are around. Then you want to send out a scout unit. Preferably I like to send out a squad or something, because I've got goblins at the moment, because then they'll last a few seconds and you'll be able to see what your opponent's doing. Usually at the moment they send stuff down the middle, but I think it's pretty good that you send a scout in before you do anything. Then obviously you get extra mana node, and then you wait for your opponent to move. Obviously if they're not doing anything, once you've made your third mana node, then you put out another unit. I will make some misplays in this match, and this is a good match, by the way. This is what you should be doing, trying to balance unit production over resource. And at the moment I'm going to be getting the tower on the right side, so I should be pushing that. At the moment this is why I put my bloomlings I think they're called, which is actually pretty good guardian, to be honest, because they are in a squad, but they are quite beefy as well, and they do pretty good damage as well, especially with a troll in front, and they could launch a dragon down right on top of those bloomlings as well, which is quite unfortunate. But otherwise, yes, try and push for the structures if you see an opening. You want to always be trying to get more mana. If you don't, then you will be raped quite a bit. The next match will dictate, it will show you exactly what happens in that case. But obviously I've got my my huntress, I think she's called, but I didn't use her correctly, and obviously she got gunned down by the archers. There comes my bloomlings again. I used my arcane missile to deal with the units there. I didn't really bother about that. But I sent a lot of units down on the right lane there. Did actually take down the tower. I took down like the left tower quite early on as well, so I've got 2 stars already. So even if the timer went out, I would still win, because I am pretty ahead right now. I've got a lot of units on the field, and I've got a lot of mana coming in as well. The tidal wave is also good, by the way. Make sure you have that in your deck, because that is a really effective way to push your enemies back. Arcane missiles are good as well. They're good against air. I do suggest you have some units that shoot air. For example, we've got the archers and we've got the apprentice that shoot air. In case you have a dragon like this, like my opponent has right now, it's just going to be really hard for you to eliminate any air units. So make sure that you have some kind of anti-air unit with you. But basically just try and level up. You might also want to consider getting some towers as well. If you think that a specific lane is going to be extremely populated with enemy units, then you want to have a tower that is enchanted for it to fire back, so that it doesn't actually just get destroyed completely. It can actually fire back and you know, just deal out some damage by itself, so that it can hold out a little bit longer before you get some units and stuff. Dragonflight, I think it's okay. I don't think it is that good, but I mean it's a good helper unit nonetheless. I mean it is tier 3. As I said, bloomlings are pretty good as well, but I can't really say whether they're actually good because they're my only guarding at the moment. But damage wise, they're quite good, and they're in the squad as well. Right now, this is going to be the bad match. This is what you shouldn't do. You should be going for manas, right? As soon as you start the game, go for a mana. The build really is, when you start the game, as I have my mouse hovered over the enchant. Yes, I'm using blue stacks, but you know I can't access the Steam version for some reason. That's why I'm doing this. Mouse hovered over the terrain expansion slot, and I immediately click there, and then I immediately enchanted in mine after I've got my goblins out. So you should go for territory, scout, then mana, and obviously I go for the extra mana node. Really good in the early game as well. Unfortunately, there were too many units in the mid lane, which is why I got swarmed by the apprentice there, but the game itself really revolves around a rock, paper, scissors. There's AoE, there's one target, and then there's a third kind, which I can't really remember, but you'll learn about it as it goes on. As a huntress is weak to archers, for example, for my deck, and goblins are weak to apprentices, because apprentices AoE damage. Here comes another apprentice as well, because I just launched some goblins, so the enemy's apprentice will actually take of my goblins very well. Here comes a tidal wave as well, but that, again, that's a really good defensive power for you to use. I wouldn't say have many powers, 2 at the most, because I've got my tidal wave and I've got my arcane missiles. Any more than 2, then that's pretty stretching it, to be honest, because you want to have a lot of units on the field. Don't rely too much on powers. And there comes my bloomings as well. I don't really know if you can actually launch a power yet when you don't have vision. But I haven't tried because I've tried to win games instead of experimenting all the time. But I made some misplays here with some poor unit combinations, and I didn't go for mana. As you can see here on the second match, I'm not going for many mana spots at all, which means that my mana is coming in at a lot less rate than my opponent's. And eventually, in the late game, my opponent will just stomp me because they'll have a lot more units and they'll have the higher tier units, and I just can't keep up with the unit production. So you really need to go for those mana nodes. As I said, the dragon looks quite okay. I mean, it's quite powerful, and it's an air unit as well. It was difficult for me because I didn't have many air units and any units to counter air units, and that's a big misplay for me. I shouldn't really have overcompensated the dragon for the, I shouldn't have used the arcane missiles of the dragon. Could have saved them, so that was a bit of a waste there. I was quite desperate to get rid of it because that is a powerful unit. But as you can see, my opponent has got a lot of mana nodes right now, and they have got the extra expansions for terrain, for the territory expansions as well. I put my troll down, but that's basically that's just to make sure that I can get some breathing room. Here come my bloomings again, but I don't think I used them correctly either. I put them down on the left here, and I put the archers down by mistake because I was quite desperate. I should have put the apprentice down. But then again, I don't know, sometimes levels are like so vast, you might want to actually put something in front of the unit that can actually counter what your opponent's sending at you. Another note as well, when you're wanting to properly counter a unit, it's best to send some cannon fodder, hence why I've got goblins, and then the counter instead of just the counter, because you may have some times where the counter that you send out gets killed by your opponent's units, so the opponent can just keep on coming at you. What happens is that any units that are on the field will attack anything that's in its closest range. So, like, if you've got a unit in front of a different unit, the first unit that the enemy unit encounters will engage, right? It'll encounter the very first unit that comes into its range. So you can have like a more powerful unit behind the cannon fodder. And I really think a cannon fodder is actually pretty good, because then you can have a cheap throwaway unit for the units to engage while you generate some kind of more powerful force behind the cannon fodder itself, which is why I've got goblins again. This is my play. I mean, you might want to experiment with decks, but this is what I like at the moment. Archers because I have anti-air then, and trolls because you want some kind of tank. I think having tanks are really good because then you can again send them in first. Trolls, a bit weird because they just go straight for structures, but then again they can just ignore units, and then you can have units killing units behind the troll, and then or in front of, but you generally want the troll in front of the other units, so that it can tank all the damage. But as you saw there, I just got absolutely stomped because I did not get the mana nodes. The mana nodes are really important. You really need to get them, and make sure that once you've started the game, as soon as the game starts, you click on one of those, or you tap on one of those expansion slots, those grey squares, as you see as I did there, because then you have access to extra mana nodes. Of course, you'd know what the extra mana node is because it'd be slightly different for all the others, and make sure to get that as well, because as I said, it's really helpful in the early game. And just make sure you use your unit counters, because the game, as I said again earlier, has a rock, paper, scissors kind of layout, so one unit counters another, but a different counters another, and stuff like that. So you'll pick up that kind of thing very quickly. And I'm sorry about the Discord thing, I just wanted to record some games, but I didn't really think about Discord that much. But yeah, that's basically what you want to do. I know I've been all over the place with this kind of video, and I wanted to actually try and rate the kind of things you should be doing in this game if you want to win, that is, while the gameplay was going, but I will add a summary at the end. But yeah, here we come, goblins going in there. Not really the best play, but considering that the enemy units were low level, it was easy for me to get rid of them. Here comes a troll. I was just debating whether to use my arcane missiles, and I did on my tower. I'm glad I didn't use them on the archers. That would have been a pretty big waste. Could have gone the tier 3, but I thought that was a bit risky. I needed to have some units out on the field going towards the enemy base. Here we go, we've got 2 trolls passing each other on the middle, and I think I do actually take the enemy troll down pretty easily. I do have swarms as well. The apprentice goes along. I think she gets taken down pretty easily by a huntress, and tier 3 isn't that much of a focus point. You really want to get tier 2. For my deck especially, tier 2 is where my deck gets good. Tier 1, it's pretty weak. Tier 2 is where you want to do. Tier 3 is if you're comfortable. If you want to go into tier 3, you really ought to be comfortable here, and that you're gonna at least just stomp one side of the map and just clearing out a tower here. Here comes some whelps as well. I target them with my own whelps. Oh no, I got a troll down. A bit of a misplay there. But unfortunately I didn't have any anti-air units, so I couldn't really counter them, unfortunately. The Gloomlings, I think, they haven't gotten launched. But the troll comes down again, and the troll is good for tanking. But don't leave it on its own. You need units to combine with the troll, because if it's just a troll by itself, usually it will just get decimated. But other than that, that's pretty much it. This is only for now, by the way. I'm only level 6, and there's a lot more to cover. I don't have any other guardians apart from the Bloomlings, but from what I've seen playing with them, they're really good. So if you do get Bloomlings, good for you, because they're quite a good guardian to have. They have nice damage output, and they own a squad as well, which makes them harder to kill. I mean, I think I did have a Gloomling mirror at one point, and that was pretty tough, but I mean, I think mine were like a level above. And again, this is pay to win as well, because the levels matter in things. But you ought to at least do the events as much as possible. Even if you die, do the events. It's really important. Just like Rivals, basically, do the events. Even if you get killed, it'll get really annoying. But so far, this game isn't as annoying as Rivals. But then again, this has just come out, and when I started, it was like a year into the game. So there's a big difference there. But yeah, so a big summary here. What you want to do, the basic build order for the summary at the end of this video. The basic build order is once you start the game, you go and click on one of the grey squares, which is a territory expansion. Immediately get on an event. It means that you can get extra mana, which is basically your resources. More resources, and if there is a mana node nearby, then get that as well. Obviously, don't just go for the same. Don't just go for any sort of square. You want to go for the one that has the extra mana node on it, and helps a lot when you're trying to build up attack and things. Second tip is to only have 2 powers, or no, 2 spells rather. 2 spells, the rest of them units. You don't want to have your deck encompassed by spells, because then that makes you more vulnerable to being killed, because you want units out on the battlefield. That's what helps you win. Spells are more like a support power sort of thing, like Fireball, but Fireball isn't really that good. Arcane missiles are actually better than Fireball. The Arcane missiles are pretty good because they can also target air. You need that ability. Fireball does meh damage, but Arcane missiles can actually pretty much one-shot targets unless they're like really over-leveled. And the third tip is make sure you have a tank unit, because then you have a chance to like just ignore the units will attack. Enemy units will attack the tank first, and then the units behind the tank, usually the troll, will attack the units attacking the tank. I know it's a bit complicated, but have the tank and have some units behind it, and make sure those units are supporting the tank, like the troll, for example. Otherwise the troll will just get killed. And other than that, make sure you get the mana nodes, because they are extremely important. If you don't get mana nodes, if you aren't upkeeping on those mana nodes, if you don't pay attention to them, you will get slaughtered by the late game, because you will not have enough resources to efficiently put out units constantly and to defend yourself, basically. Those are my tips. I know it's been a bit all over the place. I've just started to do this, and I've just played a few games to see how it is. Hopefully you found this a bit helpful. If you do have any questions, then I'm pretty sure you will do. Pop them down in the comments. I'll try to answer them as best I can. But for that, thank you very much for watching. and I will see you in the next video.